Um, so today's focus is on commitment. So we're in our 8th week of this round, and then we're going to start another round and go even deeper into what it takes to be in partnership and all kinds of relationships. And one of the things, and Phyllis said it so well, just right at the beginning, is in commitment, we take care of each other. You said, oh, well, it was my turn, like it's my turn, and sometimes it's his turn. And that's how it works in a relationship when there is a commitment, because the commitment is, oh, I'm going to show up for you. Well, I'm going to show up for me. I'm going to be in integrity with myself, make sure I'm getting enough rest and doing all the things that I need to do to nourish myself. And then I'm really there for you in these in the hard moments and in the great moments, right? Because the commitment is also, I'll stand by your side while you celebrate this wonderful thing that happened or that you did, or when you're up on a stage giving a speech or doing whatever you're doing. So yeah, it's a very deep topic. And I feel like a lot of times, maybe in these new generations, and even my generation, I see it with people around me, there's a reluctance to commit. There's really a reluctance to commit because what do you give up? There's certain things that you give up when you commit, and there's a lot that you receive when you commit to really showing up for someone. And this can be, your husband, your wife, or your partner, or, and of course, your child. So there's this committed relationship here, that I'm here with you and I'm taking care of you, even when you don't like me, when they hit my teenage years and they start to pull away. It's real, and yet it's still committed, still showing up, and being able to commit in a way that's really in integrity, in the deepest integrity, which I feel like is an art and takes a lot of self-reflection. Well, what am I committing to here? Rather than just saying yes or just saying no. So that's what we're going to meditate on today. And then we'll do a little bit of journaling and talk about it and see. So if you want to make yourself comfortable, timer here. And we'll just take some deep breaths. And just as you're breathing, allow yourself to settle into your seat. Really feel where your body can sink in. And with the breath, allow your body to begin to relax, to release, to be heavy. So in this moment, in this meditation, committing your attention, to the breath and to letting go. Allow yourself to really sink in to the center of your own breath. allowing your breath to take you in and in into your heart, this rare mother's heart. And just noticing in your heart all of the feelings and sensations that come up when you contemplate commitment, commitment to yourself, your partner, your child, your children. Just notice what's here. Maybe it's tenderness, joy, sorrow, a feeling of strength, resilience. Making room for whatever is here. These are the elements, the fibers of commitment that weave together. Breathing and receiving. This is what is being offered, experienced. As we dance in the context of commitment, the commitment we have to our own hearts, to the hearts and bodies and minds of the people we're in relationship with. Side of your commitment, there are many elements. Just noticing what these are for you today, right now. How you're nourished and how perhaps you're stretched and challenged in moments to stay the course, show up to the commitment of relating and caring. All the facets, all the facets of loving. Just take a moment and thank yourself. Thank yourself for taking this time, for being committed to yourself, prioritizing these quiet moments together, heart to heart, soul to soul. And then, as you're ready, you can slowly let the eyes open. And let's just take a few minutes to reflect on what are these fibers of commitment? What are the elements that showed up for you? The most important elements, the places that nourish you and what supports you to get through the challenges. It's that the resilience, the fortitude to stay committed, even if, even when. So we'll take maybe 5 or 6 minutes and just reflect, what are the fibers of commitment that are most essential, that are nourishing and sustaining? Taking a little bit more time to finish up. And if you're finished, maybe reflect on what you've written. And then let's come back together. So, what are the fibers of commitment? What are the most important ones for you all that are sustaining, nourishing, and kind of create the weave of that commitment?
Do you want me to go first, Phyllis?
Thank you, Catherine.
I'm of course not sure that this is where you were going with the question, but I wrote a few things. So, obviously that love starts first as an attraction, but then you like really see someone and you see that they see you. So to me, it's that intimacy that starts the whole thing off. And then I had kind of three categories. One is things that are common between us. One is shared, which sounds like common, but it felt a little different. And then one is things that are just sort of done alone. And so the common ones I had, common goals, common courtesy, common language. You really have to develop a common language that is sometimes surprising, to not be misunderstood, right? To like really agree on things, or to just know what you're talking about.
Yeah, to have what would be a clear communication versus
there you go.
Sort of like mutual projection.
Exactly. So, and then I had this other part so those seem like common, like you both have them, but then shared seems more like you work hard for, although you might work hard for the common language, but the shared vision, shared humor that you build, shared chores, that you decide on. So there's this sort of sharing part. And then I wrote some things that I feel like you kind of have to do alone. And one is prioritizing yourself, even if that's part of your shared vision. The other person can't do that for you. Mm-hmm. And that's probably been my biggest learning curve, from being a kid. I just didn't understand that at all. And I was really, like when you were talking in the beginning, Padma, about in relationship, it being a commitment to yourself, to take care of yourself and show up, and also a commitment to the other person. I just always gloss over that first part. And I can see that problems arise when I am in, personal trouble, when I don't have enough sleep, when I don't have the things I need. Mm-hmm. Okay, so prioritizing self. And then another one that you kind of have to do alone, I think, is, like you said, picking up the slack in hard times. Like you kind of just have to tell yourself, oh yeah, this is my turn. I think. I mean, even though that's a shared vision, I think it still requires, because a lot of times the other person can't necessarily say that in a way that feels compelling. And also alone, you have to kind of allow things to not be done. Even if you wanted them a certain way and you're unhappy with it, them not getting done, you either have to do them or allow them to not be done. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then the last one I had is sort of seeing yourself versus your couple versus the community. So like just having your sense of your place in those three realms. Mm-hmm. that's kind of done on your own too. Anyway, that's what I wrote down. And I found it to be an interesting exercise, even though I'm not sure any of those are fibers, but
Well, there are definitely elements and approaches. So it's, yeah, so it's like the shared, the common, and the alone. The sort of qualities of, it sounds like, well, when you got to self, you talked about there's a sort of dedication and devotion to continuing to show up and knowing that it's like, okay, I'm still here, I'm still in, and I'm going to show up. And then I'm going to make allowances. I'm going to accept and allow that you're not doing things exactly the way I would do them or on my timeline. And that's okay. And that's that's one of the fibers that weaves in, that allows you or supports the enduring commitment. If you weren't committed, you could just say, oh, you didn't do what I wanted, I'm leaving. But we don't say that. I mean, unless we do, because sometimes we do, and that's what happens. And if you have a commitment, you do these things, and you do, you make a lot of, it takes a lot of thoughtfulness and a continued, I mean, all the things you also spoke to are ways of showing up. I'm showing up to our shared vision. I'm showing up to our humor. I'm making it a point to communicate with our shared language, because otherwise I'm just more or less in my own trance and you're in yours. And sometimes they align, and sometimes it's like, oh, wait a minute, we completely missed. I appreciate how you took the inquiry. Oh, good.
Well, thank you. Maybe if I'd been to some of the other sessions, I'd know what you meant by fibers.
Well, I've never used that word before
Okay.
in this context. And I mean, for me, these questions, these inquiries are very open, and they're meant to be very open. And then just to see, well, where does that land with you? Where does that land with you, having kind of meditated on or felt into, wow, what's going on in my inner world? And then when my inner world gets to express through the pen, what comes out?
Yeah, well, I think this word just came to me with the sort of alone piece, which is like integrity. Like we have this shared vision, but we need to be in integrity to keep it up. And
yes, that's such an important word. And also, where I'm in integrity, that's where the self piece comes, right? I'm in integrity with myself, and I'm in integrity with the relationship, which actually invites a lot of updating. Let's dialogue about what's in integrity now. It used to be that I did all of this and you did all of that. Well, now we're a little older, or someone has an injury. Well, now they can't just take out all the trash because their back hurts. Very sort of mundane example. So the updating to, well, what is an integrity for us now? Or when your kids get older or pass away or leave the house or whatever it is, we readjust to what it is to be in integrity with ourselves and each other and our commitment. So it has to stay current.
Right. And out of conflict, right? You don't want how you stay in integrity with yourself to be in conflict with how you stay in integrity in the relationship.
Yeah. So. You wouldn't, for me, I wouldn't be in integrity with myself if I were out of integrity in my relationship. And that that's can also be situational. What's because?
That's because you're very centered. I think a lot of times people
I intend it. I am not always.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
For sure not.
Yeah. I mean, and then so using the word integrity is probably the wrong word, but people that even just having your working relationship, just like how that looks.
Yeah.
It's easy for someone like me to feel in conflict because I prioritize a lot of different things. And so a lot of times those things might be in conflict. So trying to find, even just within myself, not even in a relationship, just within myself, how to do things is like, oh, I want to do this. Oh, but I want to do that. And they're opposites. And so just sitting and being like, what's the best right now, or what is
Mm-hmm.
appropriate right now, that can even be, um, effort.
Yeah. And it
So
takes, that's so important. It takes, you have to slow down and be like, well, what's really needed here? I thought I was going to do that. I said I was going to do that. It seemed like a great idea at the time. And actually now it's really not. Or maybe it still is. So there's a lot of deep listening that we do. And also that within the context of the commitment, there are these sort of micro agreements that we have with ourselves, that we have with each other. And those need to keep getting updated. I mean, when we start to sort of peel it apart, there's a lot to a commitment. It's not just like you say, okay, I want to be with you, and either you're married or you're not married, but it's a living, breathing experience of committing to yourself, to each other, to what's actually aligned, to the fact that we're in a pandemic, right? Still. Mm, thank you.
I'm so glad that this is recorded, because there's so much that you said, Catherine, that I want to hear again. And I connected with the fibers that you chose and everything. And then there's so much therapy and counseling. I want to go back to, and the meditation is really hit
Mm.
home with me today.
Oh, good.
Um, Catherine, when you talked about common communication, um, Richard and I were married for 11 years. And during that time, we had our little children that were ill, and we didn't have the verbal common communication skills. We were very young.
Mm.
We were in our 20s. And now here we are in our 70s, and we're developing those where we didn't have them before. We just had love. We were
Mm.
committed to the children, and we were committed to our love relationship.
Mm.
And the other thing that touched me about what you said was the things that are not done, because we can't do them and focus on the relationship. Um, what I wrote about was my children, but just currently, we were driving back home this morning, and we needed gas, and I had to get out, fill the gas tank, clean the windows and everything. And I got in the car, and Richard said, "I'm sorry that I can't do those things for you."
Mm.
And it just touched my heart so much. And I just said, well, you know what? Um, I can't keep the house clean, and I can't keep the refrigerator empty out. And, there's so many things that I can't do for you, that I'm just doing what I can do. And that's what we are doing.
Mm.
And that was what brought me back in our meditation to my children. Um, I was committed to care for them, feed them, teach them, keep them safe, and to love them. And I cried because I couldn't save them. And when they had to have 24-hour nursing care, I didn't even get to cook for them anymore. But the whole time that I had them, what I could do was to love them. And I felt good when we were in the meditation, because I fulfilled that part of my commitment. I was able to love them all the time
Mm.
and experience life with them, their life. Even though it was difficult for them, I was able to share that with them. and I kept that commitment. So that made me happy with myself. I could smile and I could be patient and caring, even though I couldn't keep the chaos out of the picture. I could do those things. And so thank you for that meditation. And thank you for what you said also about prayer, because yeah, I needed to hear that. So anyway, that's what I wrote.
That's really beautiful, Phyllis. And I love hearing about your, your intentionality and your being present with your kids. It's, it's the stuff of life that that connects us and that makes us, feel great. And to have that even when things aren't going the way we want, it's great. It's really inspirational to hear how you had that and it meant so much, and I know it meant so much to them too. That's all any of us want, is to be seen by another person and to enjoy and have that time together.
I've told this story. I don't know if I've told it in this workshop, but when the doctors came over from Europe, they shared with me that one of the problems with children like mine was that they would bite. And the minute they said it to me, I knew what they were talking about. My children, they said, your children don't bite. Well, I knew what they were talking about. The children get so frustrated because they can't verbally communicate. So their frustration comes out in physical action. And I feel good that I gave them the understanding and the love that they didn't have to bite. I mean, I did that. It took my life out of me, but but I did that. And I'm look at, why I love Angel Aid is because until I had Angel Aid, I thought I did everything wrong. And Angel Aid is helping me see that I did a lot of things right.
Yes, you did.
So that's why I share them. Yeah.
And they're so beneficial to hear, so powerful to hear you talk about the biting and how your children didn't have to bite. That is that the commitment to, I'm going to understand you. I'm going to find a way to understand you. I'm going to listen. I'm going to give everything. I'm going to be so patient. I mean, talk about patience and resilience and the fortitude to just, I'm like, okay, I'm right here with you. Let me try and understand. And they also could hear that and feel that, even if they couldn't express, wow, mom, thanks. That's awesome. Thank you for being such a good listener, right? They were transmitting that. Because also there was, what I'm hearing is that there was a certain peace or relaxation in them. They didn't have to reach that really intense level of frustration where they would just lash out, which makes total sense that if a person doesn't have access to words, they might get really, really frustrated because they know exactly what they want to say.
Yeah. And they would bite children would bite to get attention. Pay attention to me. I'm trying to tell you something.
Yeah. Yeah, listening is a really important element or fiber to bring. That's in the commitment. We are, whether we've said or not, I commit to listening to you to the best of my ability and making room for whatever you have to say, and vice versa, that we commit to really listening. Because that, as Catherine brought up, I want to be seen. I want to be seen. I want to be heard. And so it takes a certain amount of spaciousness. And I feel like as parents or as partners, we can really do that. And I see with my daughter, who's going to be 15 this week, I'm doing a lot of listening, asking a question, a small question. And I'm committing to actually be very disciplined and not do so much reflecting, a lot more listening. So for me, that's the discipline of like, okay, I'm gonna back up here. I'm gonna zip it. I'm gonna ask a question, and then I'm just gonna wait and see what gets said. And a lot gets said in the spaciousness. I feel like that's one of the fibers, is the fiber of listening. I'm going to listen. I'm going to give you that gift. And sometimes it's really hard not to interrupt, for someone who's so centered. My daughter said to me, Mom, for someone who's done so much work on herself, you're being really immature. I'm like, you're right.
I love to hear your stories because my granddaughter's 14.
Oh yeah, they're the comrades. Those two. Yeah. When is Chloe going to be 15?
In January.
Okay. Yeah. Mira's a little older for the grade. But yeah, it takes so much. The commitment. So that's where the commitment to be in integrity with oneself, to kind of, catch oneself from being reactive. And relating with teenagers is kind of its own commitment, in my experience, my limited and ever expanding experience. And it's like totally committed to the relationship. And now not all, but many of the rules and the boundaries and the shape of the container is shifting. And I think that's true in most relationships, all really, that the shape of the container shifts. It's clear, okay, we're here, we're committed, we love each other, and it shifts. Sometimes we give each other more space. Sometimes we're really close in because that's what's needed. And so that's where the integrity and the being in alignment with oneself enables us to know, when is it time? When is it time to just be quiet? When is it time to be firm? When is it time to just make room? And I was talking with a wonderful friend of mine earlier today, and about our kids, and she sent me a GIF file of this of a heart, one of these moving files of a heart with wings just flying. And I feel like it's giving room for the heart to fly. And I think I offer that as an invitation, right? In all the relationships. I mean, with the children, for sure, we need to eventually give them more room, more space. And in all of our relationships, to let our hearts just really soar. Sometimes takes a lot of surrender too. I'm quite sure, Phyllis, that you have delved quite deeply into the fiber of surrender in your commitment to your children and your whole family. Is there anything else that's bubbling up that you want to add? Either of you?
When you said the word surrender, I was thinking about how sometimes things have a separate life of their own, like we're there, I'm there in it, but it goes in directions I didn't necessarily expect. And I could maybe say, wait, no, we're not doing that. But at the same time, you kind of want to say, hey, what's going to happen when we do that? What are the possibilities? I didn't think of this. Mm-hmm. And I remember my oldest telling me when my affected son had moved to a group home and I was very sad about it. He said, "Mom, look, our family's a group project." It's like, I've been in lots of group projects with lots of very smart people that I really liked, and none of them have ever gone how I thought they would. You know, it's like, you had this idea, and it's not only you don't get to decide, it's a group project. So this way's better, wasn't what you thought, but just get on board now. It's like, that was such an interesting way to think about it, because I really was thinking me. I don't want this. This isn't what I, prepared for. This isn't what I think is right. This isn't what I mean, I did think it was right. It's like, I wanted another way.
Just didn't match up with your preconceived notion of how it should be.
Right. But there were, like, I saw the sort of choice between two things, and I wanted a third choice. I wanted something different. I didn't even know what it would be, but I wanted a different solution. So anyway, that sort of surrender is interesting, because it's kind of like having, well, there's lots of metaphors, but anyway, you're in it, but you don't have all the control.
So true. And what a wise son you raised.
Yeah.
To reflect that back to you. We know we've done a good job when our kids are like, "Hey, get an update to what's really happening here, Mom. Like, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
Really, really brilliant. Yeah.
I have a question. I'd like, I would love for my husband to watch this one.
Sure.
Yeah. And I wondered, Catherine, is your son able to understand different things like meditation and?
My affected child?
Mhm.
No, but I think he's kind of closer to a constant state of meditation. I think he doesn't like go up a lot of layers in cognition. He's not trying to hide himself. He doesn't try to hide his emotions. He doesn't try, whereas I would. He doesn't try to do anything. As far as I can tell, he doesn't try to be different than he is. So he's kind of already.
Kind of like my Jared. That's the way he was, yeah.
Yeah. So he doesn't meditate, but he doesn't not meditate.
Sounds like he's really being. It's an unencumbered state of being himself, where he's not trying to do or be anything other than he is.
Yeah.
Such a really such a relief.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Someone asked me, I was complaining that not complaining, but like saying, that he couldn't communicate. And somebody I know said, "Are you sure? Do you ever not know how he's feeling?" And I was like, "Well, no, I know how he's feeling. He doesn't hide how he's feeling." She's like, so he does communicate. And it's like, well, communicates some things. He doesn't communicate what he's thinking.
Right. He might not communicate the nuance or the precision of what might be going on. And you get where he's at.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that takes a certain commitment to be really patient and trusting of what you're getting if he's unable to, really hone in on the specifics per se.
Yeah.
Or nuanced emotions or.
Yeah. Well, he'll say like one word. And so the question is that a request? Is that a comment? Or is that him entertaining himself with sound? So you kind of then go into which of those is it. And comment is the one that's it's like easy enough to do if you start doing it. If you start banter, it's easy to continue banter, but it's easy to never go into banter. It's easy to assume it's a request. So you have to even realize that banter is a possibility
Mm.
and not just treat everything as a request.
Mm-hmm. So what's the fiber of commitment that you're engaging in order to be open to, like, even wondering, well, which is it? A request? Is it word, like sound? Is it an invitation to banter? Is it a commentary on something, which then is an invitation to banter, right? Per se, possibly.
Well, I ask him if it's something he wants or if he wants to talk about it.
Mm. So curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah, Kira, and it takes a lot of, I mean, if we're driving, I can't really do it. You know, you have to stop and face him and watch his body and his face. Because sometimes he'll use sign language and sometimes he'll talk and sometimes he'll do both. And I need to be able to see him, see more of him. I can't just hear him. In fact, I videoed him once doing different signs and he kind of says stuff with the signs. And then I listened to it without looking at the video. And I couldn't believe they all sounded identical.
Wow.
And I was 100%,
with the signing.
I had been 100% sure they were different. Like I would have told you for sure he was saying something different. And I, the way I say it, the way I would mimic him would be different, be different things. But then listening to it without the video, I was like, oh, it's all the same. I'm putting all that extra information in myself.
Well, are you putting it in, or kind of, as I hear you describe it, you're really offering a very like full system listening, which is including your sight and your sensing and your auditory sense. You're just engaging all of you in order to glean and make meaning of, and really to connect and have meaningful communication. Whereas if it's all just like a one sound thing, you could also go a whole other direction with that. You could get frustrated or sad, or could go a lot of different ways. So I really want to recognize your willingness, and that's the commitment to be so patient and slow down and really stop the car, pull over, turn around, look, and just like, what's happening here? Let me get you.
Yeah. Yeah. And we do a lot of drawing on a pad and do a lot of like, do you want this or this? This one or this one? And he'll
he'll point.
But even the point's funny because sometimes he'll point to the one, but sometimes he'll like push it away because he doesn't want it. So you kind of have to.
You're like, are you pointing or are you pushing?
Yeah, how much gusto? Yeah.
And you have to be in tune to him to know.
Well, he's always been that way. Even as a very young baby, he was, the very first speech therapist would show him two toys and try to see what he wanted, and he would push away the one he liked least. It's like he didn't want either one of them, but one of them might have like been offensive to him somehow, sort of harming his sight or his sound or something, and so and they're just little baby toys, like they weren't anything unusual, but he wasn't the person they were made for. He wasn't going to like them. So anyway, he'd push away and he just kept insisting, no, he pointed to that one. So we have to teach him this. And eventually I was like, yeah, we don't have to teach him anything. We have to learn, He already knows what he's doing, and he's not changing. So anyway, those were interesting early days of people trying to convince me that we had to shape what he already knew into something else.
So it's really that you had to learn his language rather than trying to teach him the common accepted language And it's
Yeah.
very interesting then, because instead of like saying, you know, mine, or just like give me, like give it the
Mhm.
gimme grab thing, it was a no,
Yeah.
no, not that. Which is really speaking to a lot of clarity. Nope, that's not, I'm not really wanting that. That's, you know, sort of a
Yeah.
level of intuitive discernment.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
He's authentic. That's it. He's authentic.
authentic and also connected to himself in ways that seem very clear.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you for that. That's really a lot there. Anything you want to add, Phyllis, before we move along into our rest of our days? All right, let's just give each other a little hug here. So glad to see you and be with you. And yeah, I mean, we were just speaking at the beginning. These are streamed live onto YouTube, unlisted, and then they get the shortened versions, just the meditations are posted publicly, and the rest go on to Mighty Networks. So if you want to review any of this, I mean, in some ways, it would be really interesting to listen to what you have said yourself. You know, it's like, wow, what did I say? Because then, you know, you receive from yourself and share it with your husband or other people in your world.